The balance between doing personal work and professional work was a very difficult one. I learned quite early on that if I was working on a commission, my duty was to do photographs that would meet the needs of the client, the imperatives of the client. If I was doing my own work, it was in my head. And quite often that was difficult to reconcile because I would get assignments, commissions, perhaps from magazines, that were very close to the things that were important to me. This lady and her child were in deep depression. She had just been divorced unexpectedly by her husband. This was in Hillbrow. I did a lot of photographs there. And the physicality, the physicalness of people impressed me deeply, and their limbs, and the way they held themselves. This was a one-eyed house painter in Hillbrow. In the portraits that I've done, particularly in the ones that I did of politicians and people like that, my first concern was to convey their presence. And that, I need hardly tell you, is Indaba. This was a photograph taken not long before he became the first president of the new Democratic Republic of South Africa. I was with two journalists, and we went to his home in Houghton in Johannesburg at 5 o'clock in the morning. He was doing his exercises. His press secretary, Karel Niehaus, showed me around and said, well, perhaps you'll want to do Mr. Mandela in that chair. And I saw what I call a goma chair. It's one of those deep armchairs into which you sink. And if you want to destroy a politician, that's one of the best ways of doing him, because he becomes all knees. And I said, no, I don't want to do Mr. Mandela in that chair. I want a straight-back kitchen chair, please. And he said, you cannot possibly photograph Mr. Mandela on a straight-back kitchen chair. And I said, well, I've come to photograph Mr. Mandela and not the furniture, and I want a straight-back kitchen chair. And most unwillingly, he eventually got me exactly what I wanted, and I got the photograph that I had hoped to get, and he eventually apologized to me. The landscape is a very difficult subject for photography, largely because of scale. It doesn't easily reduce to a little rectangle of paper. And so you need to become peculiarly aware of how the landscape works or how the land works. I don't like the word landscape because that implies already that you've brought a certain kind of order to it. The whole problem of photographing the land is to find a way of doing it that conveys a certain visual order, but which at the same time doesn't look as though you've organized it. It's a difficult subject, an extremely difficult subject. Willem Boshoff is one of our great artists, and he sculpted this piece of granite which sits on the campus of the University of the Free State in Bloemfontein. And how it got there is as follows. A couple of years ago, there was an incident at the university in which some young Afrikaner men pissed into the food of some black workers. The incident created a huge furore. The university dealt with the young men. I think they were all dismissed. But the university then went into what I consider to be an enormously imaginative idea and scheme. They commissioned major pieces of new art for the campus. These things were to dot the campus. The idea being that the campus would then be a place in which people would be exposed to other ways of being and other ideas. And that's how this came to be. I think that photography has the capacity for recognizing things and bringing them out of obscurity, as it were, or out of where they are into another frame, so that one looks at it somewhat differently. Willem's name for it, and actually it is a beautiful name, is the thinking stone. And I did this photograph just last Saturday on my way here. And I consider it to be a thinking stone in the sense that it challenges us to think about where we are here in this country and what kind of people we are. So it is to me an almost ultimate portrait. Thank you very much.